missing two board members.
Do you have a hook?
Rick, you want to go out without Rick?
You have a hook?
Okay.
We heard rumors that she was sabotaging the.
Let's wait a couple more minutes for Rick to get here.
We're waiting for you. They postponed the meeting. Since you're the ex-officio board member.
I specifically don't put it under the trash can. Gotta keep the walkway clear.
Okay, let's wait just a few more minutes for Rick Loman to show up. Is that all right?
You know, the Wolverine.
It's going to begin.
She's like vetoing it.
All right. Welcome to the regular meeting of Sewer Authority Midcoastside Board of Directors, 7 p.m. It's actually 7:06. Let's go ahead and have roll call, please.
Director Patridge? Here. Director O'Connor?
Here.
Chair Harvey?
Here.
Director Boyd?
Here.
Director Warren?
Present.
Director Loman?
Here.
I just have the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, any public comment, oral communication, any comments that things are not on the agenda? Yes.
I don't have the notification right in front of me, but the Coastal Commission is meeting in Princeton in November, and on Wednesday, whichever week that is, the county has scheduled a reception at 6 o'clock, or if the commission meeting runs long, it'll be when the commission meeting ends.
Okay.
So it's not somewhere in Princeton. At the Yacht Club, I think they said.
Yeah,
Oh.
yacht.
Oh. All right, anybody else? Any public comments or things not on the agenda? All right, in that case, we'll go into closed session. Closed session, 3 items: public employee performance evaluation, public employees, government code section 54957B, titled Technical Services Supervisor and Supervisor for Administrative Services. And then labor negotiations, unrepresented employees, General Manager, Government Code 54957.6, SAM designated representatives, Board of Directors.
In the 80s, a President
Okay.
Biden once went out to lunch
Wait.
in a 3-piece suit to go
So
buy tires.
we're back, and we're going on to item number 4, consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yeah.
just report that
Okay,
direction
I'm sorry.
from the board was given to staff during closed session.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, consent agenda, 3 items. A, approved minutes of September 22nd, 2014 board meeting. B, receive and file managers' monthly reports for September 2014, including the monthly flow report, financial statement, the monthly NPDES report, collection system data. And C, approve disbursements for October 2014. Okay, board members?
We recommend approval, but I would like to pull BA, the monthly flow.
Okay.
I'm shocked.
She was on the
other foot.
Turn around.
Anybody else?
Now how do you like it?
If there's nothing else, then.
I'll second that. Just everything except BA.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve the other items. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Let's go on to B, flow report, BA.
Yeah, I thought we had talked, because the city was up a little higher than normal. I think we were like 52 last previous month, and this month we're up to 53. I thought we had talked about having like 3 months worth of numbers in there.
We have,
or
we're in
3
the
years.
process of working on getting the data gathered up right now. So
Okay.
we've gotten some of the data now, it's just a matter of formatting.
Okay.
So it is in progress.
Rather than wait till the next month, if you guys get it together and just shoot me an email copy.
Sure.
I just want to see where we are. I want to see what kind of trends there are. Because I don't want to react to 1 or 2 months. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, we've got 3 years worth of data we're
Yeah.
overlaying.
Yeah,
Now might be a good time for me to press for the 52
Go ahead and lock it in. You got a chance.
Nice try.
So
Just
you
trying to
you
save
can't
you guys
even
money.
blame it on visitors for Pumpkin Festival because that's this month, not last month.
Yeah, we're working on seeing who's flushing more, and we'll have answers.
Just door to door, is it? That's what we do in Granada now. That's why it's dropping.
That's all I have.
They have to call us before they flush the toilets.
All right.
After that.
Okay, do we have a motion? Motion to approve 4BA?
I would so move.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great.
I don't think everybody
Passes.
heard what Scott
Okay,
said.
5, old business. A, discussion of possible action, adopt job description and salary range, treatment, field operations supervisor, rotational.
As an update, when I last brought this forward, I let the board know that I had yet to sit down and do meet and confer with Local 39, which has taken place, and my main concern was making sure there was an understanding on what types of certifications that SAM would be on the hook for paying vertical certification incentives for, because those things, if they are not managed properly, can significantly impact your wage budget. We had an opportunity to do that. We came up with a salary range that's appropriate. It would be about a 5% step over the current operations. What's that term? It's not the operations. I got it. Systems operator. So what that did is it moved the entry-level salary up about $30 to $76.89, and it paired off about $500 from the top range. And what that did is that fit that into a previously negotiated salary bracket that's within the existing MOU, and that's called salary range 390. And what I got was a agreement in principle, or basically a draft side letter, which is attached behind the job description, which carves out those particular certification and incentives that will be eligible during this current MOU, with the stipulation that mutual agreement with SAM's needs and the bargaining unit, that at some future date, if we needed certification incentives for other things, the option was there, but there was nothing baked in automatically. So that's what section 1 is. And then subsection 2 to that the draft side letter you have in front of you, it shows which salary bracket that will fall into, which is 390, which is copied on the back side of the job description, highlighted in yellow in your attachment. So
What is the salary range for the position that Tony currently has?
there currently there never was a salary bracket built for that position. It would, Tony's current wage would fall somewhere around, it's above step 5, I believe, on 390. So this isn't apples to apples with that, but they're one of the issues we have had with the unrepresented staff is there's never been a bracket similar, a range of salary bracket. It is something that should be addressed in the future.
Okay.
Is typically having a range. Even CalPERS has asked us for salary ranges for those positions, and we've been scrambling to basically kind of reverse engineer things, to saying, well, if we build this backwards, this is what this would look like over time, and this is the history of how it's been applied, and we need to handle on that. So that's one of the upcoming tasks with the administrators.
Okay, Naomi?
So my question, so if Tony's on 390 and he's on step 5,
It would be above that.
he's above that, so he's not really on range 390?
There, no, he
No,
doesn't
okay,
fit into
all right,
that
good,
range.
because I was just gonna say, I don't think we should do that.
No,
It
there
needs to
would
be
be,
Tony, okay, so you don't have a salary range for management that's receptive, okay.
correct. And what I tried to do is build something back that gave room to grow for these employees.
Right,
But that
absolutely.
didn't match that, because I'm fundamentally looking to change the nature of the operation by spreading some of the responsibilities, distributing them
Right.
with an incentive to do so, and then kind of creating something new in what Tony's position was.
Yeah, so
So
for
it should be a
now,
hierarchy.
Correct.
yeah, for now, he increased the bottom and decreased the top for now a little bit,
Yeah.
so.
So can you say which step you expect the entry
our staff would be entering at in the 1 and 2 range.
Okay.
So there's some room to grow there, and that was the goal, is I wanted to, 5% has been historically what SAM has set up, even for its unrepresented employees, it's been about 5% increment, and in the MOU, it's carved out as 5% more than the next step, and so I took and built that back, and I compared it with where Tony is currently, then did kind of a regressive analysis on his salary and his salary history to see how that played out, to kind of come up with a middle ground of looking backwards.
So if somebody's at step 2, comes in at step 2, help me with this, so then how do they go to 3 or 4 or 5?
They, with the MOU, at the end of the next term, they would jump up to step 3, then to step 4, and then to step 5.
Yearly or,
The annual.
okay, okay.
So that was, that pretty much concludes my update. We went through quite a bit of negotiation back and forth with L39 to get this hammered out. And I think it's fair to both parties.
All right. Any other board members, any discussion?
What's the range for whichever schedule they're in right now?
We have two individuals that are systems operators and one that's a certified operator.
I mean, in terms of, like, if you were to overlay whichever schedule they're on with multiple steps onto 390, how does it line up? Like, for example, is step 5 on their current schedule show up, say, at step 3 here or something like that?
Step 5, certified operator 3 is the minimum level of qualifications for which you would be qualified to move up. And if you look at step 5 of that range, so basically topped out as a systems operator, if you added 5% to that salary, it would come very close to step 1.
Okay.
So that's how that progression was. If you meet the minimum qualifications internally to move, you get basically a 5% bump.
So initially, this is not any kind of big jump then?
It's creating a new class of employee with a 5% step up from the qualified operator.
And then, again, refresh my memory, so in terms of having union members supervising other union members, is that already an accepted thing, the MOU?
Supervisory is okay. When it comes to disciplinary action, ultimately resides with me, which would be the case anyway. So anything that could adversely affect their employment would land in my lap, and that's actually, it would be there anyway.
Do we need, we need a motion to approve this?
I would so move.
Okay.
I'll
So-
second.
Second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Rob. That's a lot of work to get that going, with those ranges. All right, so we're going on to old business B, receive update from ad hoc recycled water committee. Alan?
So we met, I guess, a couple weeks ago, and as we all agreed, the committee agreed, one of our key milestones is to basically put together the principles for recycled water that all the agencies can agree to. So there were 3 different versions, oldest, medium, and then newest. And we originally started working with the oldest and the simplest, and then we wanted to go to the more current one, which is the March 2010. So we took that agreement, kind of cleaned it up a little bit, took out a few of the things that didn't make sense. And the committee sat down, again, a couple weeks ago, took that agreement, made a couple of changes. I don't think there was maybe more than 3 or 4 changes to the agreement. We agreed on that as a committee. After we met, we discovered that there was one thing we had changed about old expenses. We'd missed it later, so we corrected that, sent a corrected version out to the committee. So that's basically version 5 with what you have in your packet.
There's nothing in the packet.
It's in the electronic packet, you
It's
know
in
that.
the new business section.
On the new business.
Yes.
It's page
This
7.
is the report.
We're gonna-
78,
Discuss it
78 of
later, yeah.
95.
Sorry.
Oh,
Correct, and the action on this is in new business.
okay,
It's
so
not-
we're just gonna talk about the committee.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just the committee report.
so then, yeah, we'll get, in new business, we'll get into the actual principles. But that's pretty much what the committee accomplished at our last meeting. And then we'll obviously get into that new business to hopefully try and finalize and agree on our principles.
All right. Any discussion, or any comments from the board members?
Well, this is just the committee report, so
Right.
the
Well,
only thing I
I
would
just wanted to give you a
suggest is that
chance to-
for future agendas, we combine the committee report with any action item, make them the same item.
Okay.
This is too confusing.
But in any case, we have a communication from Catherine Slater Carter. Do you want to,
Oh, no, I want to speak on the recycled water item.
okay, the item
I just
comes
want to
up.
get my
Okay.
slip in.
All right, so this is just the
There was plenty
committee,
of
this is
water.
the committee report. Okay, we'll hang on to this. Anybody else? Okay, so thank you, Alan. All right, we'll go on to new business. Consideration of changes to December 2014 board meeting date.
I brought this forward as looking through, it looks like traditionally, the December meeting of SAM has been adjourned for understandable reasons and family commitments and whatnot. So I wanted to bring this forward as, for discussion. The schedule as set forth currently will have us meeting on December 15th. I didn't want to assume that it would be canceled because if there is further action, say on recycled water or other things, we may want to have that meeting in place, but I didn't want to bring it forward for
Okay.
discussion and possible action for the board, so that if they want to adjourn the meeting, we can get them in the process of doing so now. I would want to point out that it looks like historically, most of the, you just end up doubling up your materials in January, so
Okay.
we can make that happen
So
administratively.
if we don't take action tonight to cancel November meeting, I would suggest that if you end up deciding, after conferring with the chair, if you end up deciding to cancel it, that it be posted as canceled due to anticipated lack of quorum. There was a rather nasty discussion at some past MWSD board meeting about canceling regular meetings. So apparently the only proper way to do it is anticipated lack of quorum. And that said, I move that we cancel the December 15th, 2014 board meeting as recommended.
But we'll have a November meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
That's still scheduled for the 17th.
Okay, it's a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'd like to just say,
Yeah.
if you need signatures, just give me, if you need someone to come sign a bunch of checks, then just, drive down and cover the checks.
All right, so,
Will we vote on that?
oh yeah, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that passes. All right, to go on to new business, item B, adopt SAM resolution reaffirming the investment policy and guidelines.
This is done annually at the recommendation of our auditors as standard business practice. There has been no changes proposed or made to the investment policy, and so it would be reaffirming the existing policy.
So moved.
Second.
Oops.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. All right. Then C, consideration of salary adjustments for technical services supervisor and supervisor of administrative services.
There's been direction given to staff out of closed session, and with the board's concurrence, I would like authorization to implement said directions.
Okay. Do we,
In
so,
other words, we're taking no action on this agenda.
so we don't need to, the board already gave direction, so do we need to have a vote on that, Jim, or are we all set?
Check.
Right, sure. That's all right.
We should vote out.
Get it, let's go. Okay, thank you, Rob. Any further discussion on that? All right, let's go on to, item, new business, item D. Discussion and possible action, adopt recycled water project principles of agreement and provide direction to staff. So let's all turn to version number 5. This is the version we're looking at. So version number 5. Does everyone have that page?
Oh, down at the bottom.
Public comment first?
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and public comment first. Catherine?
Thank you. Appreciate that. In reading over version 5, I note that there are two fundamentals for it, and basically it's to divide, this project is to provide water for Ocean Colony Partners for the golf course. It's well and good. I'm reading paragraph 13, and I'm reading the previous paragraphs in which MWSD is going to be providing what appears to be staff time and engineering time and board time, plus other payments to have this project proceed. Nowhere do I see a financial analysis of any kind of cost benefit for MWSD. So I don't know I have no idea what it's going to be costing us. I have no idea what the benefit for us is. And we could certainly provide for Half Moon Bay a cost benefit analysis in at least in terms of risk management on the wet weather flow project. But I don't see that we have any benefit from providing water to Ocean Colony Partners. And I see this project is very limited in scope, and so I don't see anything benefiting MWSD, and I need to be sold on what the benefits would be. With the wet weather project, we were helping MWSD, and Granada actually paid for the whole thing, and we protected Half Moon Bay's beaches and kept Half Moon Bay free from fines from wet weather spills and so on in the area. Again, I need to see some numbers and some cost benefit, because I think this is premature until we have some numbers and have some reasons why for MWSD. Thank you.
Okay, let me start off with saying that these are principles of agreement. The details, I think, will be in the negotiation. And secondly, there is one benefit, and that is that SAM will be paying, selling the water, so SAM benefits, and then MWSD has a stake in SAM. But those are my initial comments. Is anybody else?
We're paying half the costs and getting 20% of the benefits, because the costs are gonna be borne in the text of that by CCWD and MWSD.
Does it indicate any proportions?
So
This is too
it's-
big.
I- That's certainly not the intention of the
I'm
wording.
sure it's not the intent, but, having attended SAM meetings and paid attention to SAM for a whole long time, I've noticed how the, SAM agreement, the founding agreement, has been twisted and misshapen over the years, and so I think when things are well-intentioned, it works for a while, but then different parties move in and things get reinterpreted. So I would like to see some very, very clear specifics on this.
Yeah.
I don't see anything in there either about reciprocity for SAM having a recycled water project up in Montero. So, because we certainly have places, I'm sure, that we could find a good use for the water, but, so at this point, it seems very lopsided and ambiguous.
Okay, Leonard?
The question that was brought to me, and I agree with the implication of the question, is why is this in the form of principles of agreement instead of just a contract? Or, well, it should be an MOU or a letter of intent, the principles of agreement is
Actually,
just
if you
too
look
vague.
at, skip ahead to version 6, you'll see that's the first change that's proposed.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay, letter of intent.
I don't think
Yeah.
anybody's disagreeing with you.
And so, you know, a lot of the things like what Catherine is concerned about, those things need to be very explicit here, you know. As she said, we've suffered because of the vagueness of the Joint Powers Authority agreement. And, you know, here's a new agreement, and everything really has to be pinned down in minute detail in this.
If I could, this is to get things going. This is not a set of contracts that would be required to actually pull this off. This is the general shape. If we can all agree that we've got a shape on this thing, we can get this thing going, there will have to be contracts.
Right.
There will be a contract between SAM and CCWD, for example, that has to exist. We, the member agencies, are gonna have to decide on whether or not to agree on that contract. But this is, can we take a step forward? Can we start talking about, you know, the immediate next steps? Can we see where we are with what was previously designed? What can we advance? And how can we get that conversation going? There's a number of things that have to go from kind of, I think we're further along than simple hand waving, because we've got things on paper from last time that can pretty quickly be turned into reality. But we need to go from there into, you know, CCWD's got to have enough that they can sit down with OCP and start having a conversation about setting up their contract. And so before anybody goes to that trouble of engaging all the lawyers, we got to see if we can all get to the same table, right? So there will be a point where the detail will have to be exquisitely clear, and we'll have to anticipate all the things that can go wrong, so we can decide, okay, you know, if that goes wrong, here's the consequence, and that's what contracts do. But I don't think this is the place for that level of detail. So I respect what you're saying. I think that you're not wrong. It's just, it's a matter of time.
What would be, you know, one of the big concerns I have is you know, Sam putting the money up front. So, you know, if we sell the water, okay, so we get repaid, what would you anticipate the payback period would be to recoup all of the sewer ratepayers' money that goes into the RW facility? Are we gonna get, is it a 5-year payback, 10-year payback, 20-year payback?
Well, if you look at the funding, the financing,
I think we discussed that, didn't we?
it's section 6, right? But, so, we have a version 5, we have a version 6. We're looking at version 5 at the moment, but is there any reason we can't jump ahead to look at version 6?
Well, version 6 was,
That's where I am, I thought we skipped
Yeah.
ahead to
I
that.
just want to understand
the
where we
reason,
are.
the reason why we decided to look at version 5 is because for version 6, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, version 6 is version 5 corrected by Chuck.
Correct, it has feedback from Granada, but
Feedback from
version
Granada.
5 was the version that came out of the
Yeah.
committee process, and so.
Yeah.
In looking at it, it doesn't look like section 6 and,
Mm-mm.
version 5 and version 6 have been changed, there are no track changes.
Okay, so pick either one.
I think we may as well just skip to version 6 if the committee doesn't have any objections to
No.
the changes.
Well, it lets us see what Granada has already proposed. A lot of this is simple enough, but section 6 didn't change, so let's just pick one, and let's talk about that section 6, and
Yeah, see, it's just really vague there.
yes.
You
Yes.
know, so I really wanna
Yes.
know what the anticipated payback period be, you know, in other words, what is our rate gonna be on the two water
I would
districts?
put it, based on our discussions with Bruce, as whatever financing has to be done, the annual payment to SAM should be sufficient to cover it. It should net out to no rate increase for our ratepayers. That, in talking with Bruce, that's how he's looking at it, if I understand correctly. I mean, he may correct me, then please do. But
There's gonna be upfront construction costs.
there is upfront construction
So how
costs,
long is it
but
gonna take
if,
from
if for
rates to
example,
get that money back?
if for example, this is done through a loan, say an SRF loan,
Okay.
or some other loan that somebody can obtain that gets good rates, there's gonna be an annual funding expense for that. Say it was done with bonds, I mean, if it was done with a bond, you're gonna have the same thing, you're gonna have an annual payment, and then the cost to pay for that financing is that annual payment schedule. And then that, the way
So
Bruce was
So
characterizing it,
you're visualizing fully amortized.
Bruce was characterizing it as, look, penciling it out, he expected he would be paying enough to cover that every year. So we shouldn't be out of pocket anything more than we choose to be out of pocket. For example, if we chose to make the facility slightly bigger to anticipate growth, or more flexible because we think operationally that makes more sense for us and we wanted to put some money into it. Say we wanted to use it to get to the adjacent farming, or, just pick some reason we might decide to go above and beyond what CCWD and OCP need, then we would have to figure out what kind of schedule we wanna take that on. Mosquito. Close the door. We're bringing him in. So, that'd be up to us. That's how I'm imagining it based on our discussions with, the committee and Bruce.
So, for example, if we have to go out and get, say, a 15-year, if we have to go out and get a loan for X amount of money, and it's a 15-year payback schedule, fully amortized, that means that the rates that we will receive for the recycled water are those loan payments. Plus our operational
If we did
costs.
the loan and pay for the whole thing, then CCWD would have to give us enough money to make our annual payments. That's,
Plus our operational costs.
And overhead
That's
costs.
right,
Yeah, yeah. And you're right in that it's a detail that we're gonna have to delve into. It'll be a question of who's able to get the financing, what'll the mechanics be. We'll also have to begin to start putting some solid figures onto the plan itself. What's it gonna be, 7, 8 million, whatever that number is.
What?
Cost.
Hmm?
Oh, you mean the dollar?
Yeah, 7, 8 million.
What'd you think, gallons?
Yeah.
And then, and the term, the interest rates, et cetera. But in our discussions, Bruce put some numbers out of what do they pay now for water, for using water from their wells, their maintenance, how much they have to buy from CCWD. And from that, he gave us a number, and I think the number was something like $500,000 a year, is where, he sees a workable number. And we had CCWD reps here, and they also feel that based on what Bruce is forecasting, that the cost of selling it to him can fall within that range. Now, obviously, as we get more explicit in bids, construction cost, et cetera, we'll begin to nail this down. And obviously, because we're keeping this simple, just phase one, just the golf course, we'll be able to go right to our customer and say, okay, it's gonna be X. Are you still on board? Because if for any reason our customer has a financial issue, then, this hinges on that. But so far, everything is falling within the parameters that Bruce says he can afford.
I think, I'm trying to find the numbers. I think it was like 320 for the water, and then the operational overhead of like 140, something like that. I'll look it up, but
Yeah.
that's how he's breaking it down, whatever the numbers came out to. So he's talking about in a way that makes me fairly comfortable that there's gonna be the cost of the financing, and there's gonna be the cost of operation and maintenance. One thing I would remind you of, don't forget, if we're taking this facility on, we're gonna be taking care of it for 10 or 20 or 30 years. So we need to think about, as it wears out,
Right.
who's paying for the replacement parts, all these things. So, let's not forget that, but.
So, that's an interesting side point that is not necessarily, well, I don't know, maybe it is, you tell me, relevant to the principles of agreement, that we need to do the budgeting for that in a way that we keep talking about doing for the rest of SAM, but we never have, which is we need to upfront build in the fully amortized replacement equipment cost. We need to say, okay, here's an item that costs us $300,000 to replace, and it has a lifetime of 12 years, So we need to be putting aside the money each year such that at the end of that 12 years, we've got the full replacement cost set aside by then.
Yeah.
And we need to do that up front with the recycle facility while we still figure out how to get there for the rest of the plant.
Let me make a comment in reference to Catherine's comments on item number 13. Can someone help me with this? SAM shall be reimbursed by CCWD and MWSD for all costs incurred by SAM for phase 1. But then in this next sentence, it kind of alludes to phase 2. So can someone help Catherine with this?
Actually, when I look at this, Jim, now that you mention it, so such costs shall be allocated between CCWD and MWSD in proportion to the maximum flow of recycled water allocated to them in the project.
So-
Initially, it would be like 100 and 0.
Right.
I think we kept trying to work in additional Montera verbiage, so everybody knows in the future,
Well, there's a phase 2.
yeah,
I'm
there could be
just not sure.
20% could go north and 80% south, or at some point.
We didn't want, in this agreement, we didn't want to exclude Montera.
Right.
We wanted to keep it as part of the agreement, but at the same time, we were all very clear in that we need to be focused on phase 1, which is simply us to CCWD to the golf course.
Right.
Now, once it's up and running, I think two things could happen. One, there's already interest coming off of that line for other farms, flower fields, ball fields, whatever. And that would reduce then the cost, that customer would make things better. And then secondly, once we demonstrate phase 1 works, then if Montera says, oh, well, we now have a potential for whatever, then we can have those discussions, and then we would get into what the costs and the expenses are. But I think it's important that we really look at this as phase 1.
Right, I understand.
Well, and the whole idea is really simple. It's like, as simple as possible, let's get it done, and then we can build on that. And just remember, we'd like to build on that, so let's not close the door to other opportunities.
I'm just not sure that the word maximum in there is appropriate.
Okay, well, if it's just about wordsmithing, we can smith the word.
I think you need something to indicate it's the anticipated share up front, and then if MWSD sometime in the future is in a position to increase their share from 0, that at that time they will put in the proportionate amount of money.
Well, we can just cross
Which-
off the
which
word
number are you-
maximum at that
That's
point.
13.
Which paragraph are you in?
13.
I don't think we should take it out.
Okay, that's fine.
Now,
So-
there's one other thing that I discussed with Chuck.
I'm not sure what the word maximum does there.
I really think that it's.
I mean, if there's an allocation, then it should be proportional to the
Right,
allocation.
it's gonna bite you in the rear if you leave that word in there. You do
Well-
not want that word in there.
I don't think taking the word out, striking out is gonna hurt anything. And keep in mind, again, this is the principles we all wanna sign
Right.
off on.
Right.
When we get into the legal contracts,
Then you take.
we're gonna get some real big
My-
words in
My
there.
guess is, let's strike out maximum, let's highlight this sentence as, we need to find a better way to say this. So before we write the contract, let's make sure we
Yeah.
have real clarity on that, and
So are the principles
let's not try to solve it right now.
basically to just paint the roadmap for how the contract is gonna be drawn up?
Correct, I think that's.
That's part of it. And secondly, we want all the agencies clearly aware of what we're doing and signing off saying, yeah, we're okay with this concept. Now let's move forward. We don't want somebody 6 months from now say, well, gee, I didn't really know that you were gonna do X or Y.
Right.
We all wanna be on the same page.
So the procedure,
It's kind of an
the procedure that the board had agreed to was that if we can agree on these principles tonight, then we have a vote, the board approves of them, and then we send the principles back to the 2 boards and the council, and they approve them, and then we come back for final approval. So I know that's a lot of steps, it's a tedious process, but that's what we agreed to do.
Well, I still have two.
We have to do it
issues.
properly and it just has to be done in the correct way.
I still have 2 issues. One of them, I talked to Chuck about this years ago. How long ago did we have that trial gizmo here.
4 or 5 years ago.
I talked to him back then about this, and he gave me an agreement that is in use at one of his sewer plants in, I guess, San Diego County, that basically and I don't remember exactly how it's structured, but, you know, I can get the agreement from him unless it's the thing that he already sent.
It's a 45-page agreement, just
And, you know, we could just,
a real agreement.
we could really start with that agreement, just customize it for us, and we'd get there a lot faster. But the concern that I have, which that agreement, I believe, takes care of, is if CCWD floats their recycled water rate to be similar to their potable water rate, the rate could go up much higher than the cost to SAM, and then CCWD essentially has a windfall profit from that. And so the agreement that Chuck's sewer plant has with their water agency, basically the sewer plant gets half of any net profit from selling the recycled water, and that acts as a governor on how far the water district is willing to raise the rates if they only get half the profit. I really think we need that here, because the reason, you know, this was one of the invisible elephants in the room. The reason that CCWD 4 years ago insisted they had to be the distributor was they wanted their markup on the water.
I think you talk about that when you have an agreement, because this is just the guiding principles.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think you guys just need to find out if you really have agreement between the three agencies and CCWD to continue. If you don't, what you're talking about is nil. So you need to get these passed so that you guys can move forward.
Right, but if
you
there's,
can't, forget it.
I understand what you're saying, but if there's some really important issues that aren't brought up now.
I believe that issue is controlled by the state legislation governing Title 22. And you may recall, maybe don't, but from the last time we had the go-around, we did speak with council, special counsel on what you can do with selling recycled water, and it couldn't be more clear in the state code that you don't get to do this for a profit.
Absolutely.
And so
But which agency does that apply to, that statement?
certainly we could not, that was pretty clear. We can recover our costs, we can recover, and those costs can include our depreciation and replacement and maintenance and operation and all those things, all the usual, all the stuff that, you know, we as an agency aren't here to make a profit.
Right, and I don't feel we need to, I just don't want CCWD to either.
Well, okay, but pay careful attention. The state code on this is quite clear, and I don't believe that's gotten anything except more strict, if anything, because the whole idea was the state wants to promote recycled water statewide, wants to really increase the usage statewide, and you're not gonna get that if you got a bunch of agencies sitting there trying to fill their coffers with money from this. So I'm not too worried about what any of the agencies do with this, because frankly, if push comes to shove and somebody starts waving around state code, everybody's gonna fall in line to that. I'm not too worried about it, and I don't think we have to do anything other than acknowledge that and move on.
All right, so the other issue is there's really no way to soft pedal this. I want a hard restriction that CCWD cannot use the what's the term for the freed up
Potable?
water, the offsets, a word I never understood in this usage, but they can't use the offset water that OCP is no longer using to create new connections.
How is that our job?
They already have restrictions.
Because that means that we're facilitating growth if they're allowed to do that.
No,
That's
it doesn't mean that at all.
on them.
You know, we have, Measure D within our community. We have a growth control ordinance within our community.
Okay, let's make sure we
Hang on,
understand the
hang on,
difference
Leonard.
between growth rate
Hang
and
on.
final
Hang
target.
on, Leonard.
Hold on,
And then
hold on. Alan, let's finish.
CCWD has restrictions on their Crystal Springs pipeline, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of stuff already spelled out in terms of what they can do and what they can't do. But I agree with Scott in that that's really not something we wanna get into.
But we're not the regulator here,
Yeah.
and I hear you that you don't wanna go facilitate something that a regulator might auto-regulate. I get that, but let's just be real clear with what it is that we're doing. And I think somewhere in there, if you wanna help clarify the analysis that shows what the anticipated freed up water is and all that, fine. Then if somebody wants to take the facts and then go make a case to a regulator, fine. I mean, what we're trying to do with the principles is make things crystal clear, let everybody think real hard about what it is that we're talking about, and see if we're prepared to take the next step. I think we probably are prepared to take the next step. And I don't think we can be too afraid of what happens when, it essentially becomes a new water source for them. You know, every water agency I know of, and I know one pretty well, wants more water sources. More water sources doesn't necessarily mean more connections. What it really means to a water agency is more operational freedom, which allows you to run a more efficient, more reliable water agency that's gonna be more sustainable in the long run, more resilient in times of stress or catastrophe. We have an earthquake, the more sources we have, the more we can afford to have trouble with, because we've got more to back us up. You look at reliability of supply and other things first. You don't sit here and look at how many connections can I sell. CCWD has already sold a lot of connections that they have yet to hook up. They've got to be thinking about how do they supply all that. And it's all done under the regulatory authority that governs what they can do and what, you know, who people can get permits. Let's not try to sweep too much into what we're doing.
I agree with most of what you're saying, but the one thing that I think that you're not familiar enough with is the fact that there, in CCWD's territory, there is a deficit, an unmet demand for probably at least 2,000 water connections. And they're gonna try and create those if they have the water. There's 700 houses on wells in El Granada. There's 800 unbuilt parcels in El Granada. That doesn't count in the city of Half Moon Bay.
If you're opposed to helping them have another water source, we should just flat out talk about that. But I don't wanna have us kind of back into trying to be a regulator
I think that I'm totally supportive of them having another water source, but the current people need to be protected, because right now CCWD is.
Leonard, is this the right venue to do that?
No.
If the contract doesn't cover this, I'm gonna have a hard time.
How do you anticipate that the contract, that it actually falls within our purview to try to insist on this in the contract? Yeah, in what world does that actually fit in our authority as an agency?
I'll have to talk to our council about
Okay,
that.
so why don't you do that, and if you figure out a feasible, reasonable, sane way to do that, then let's talk. But I think in the meantime, they're gonna come up with water supplies, whether it's this or more of, you know, they can reactivate more of their old wells. It used to be all wells. Just what, 40 years ago, it was all wells and creeks. They're looking at developing extra water off of San Vicente Creek. They're looking
I watched
at,
part of your board meeting.
they're looking at anything they can. They may look at fog nets. They may cut water consumption in half, and that creates a water resource of all the water they have been producing. Half of it now they can feel free to shuffle around. If you're concerned about what they do with water sources, this is one and only one. And the fact of the matter is, we know that OCP needs this, and OCP needs it. That means that the RITS needs it. The RITS and OCP together are huge contributors to the vitality of Half Moon Bay.
The Ritz has a lot of
People
landscape.
don't come to the Ritz just to stay at the Ritz. Some of them like to golf. There's an actual synergy, an actual good use of that word for what happens with the golf course and the Ritz, and then all of the commerce in the city. This all plays together to having our biggest partner in SAM have strong finances. And the better the finances for SAM, the more we can look to them and say, hey, you guys picking up the check for this dinner? You know, I mean, you know, if we can, it's a virtuous cycle here, I think. And so if you got concerns about what to do in the regulatory arena, play in that arena with those concerns, but I don't think that fits here in the principles of agreement or.
Do I need to dig up the video of Director Larimer sitting at a CCWD meeting asking their council, what happens if we ignore the conditions on the El Granada pipeline?
I don't believe he's on that board anymore, is he?
But some of his philosophy lives on.
You know,
We need to get back on track
Yeah,
here
Agreed.
later. I mean,
we're on
Agreed.
track.
we're really talking about
Guiding principles.
the guiding principles for recycled water with phase one only, okay? By the way, I would recommend, I know Chuck's correction, he took it and he changed it from principles of agreement. He didn't want this to become a legal document, so we changed it to letter of intent. I still like the term guiding principles for recycled water. I think it really expresses what we want to express better.
Otherwise, everybody gets that, I think, a misunderstanding of what this really is. And it should say guiding principles, it shouldn't say letter of intent, because then everybody thinks it's a contract or an agreement. And it's really not, it's really a guiding principle for what you guys wanna do. I think personally, I've not been involved in it, but when I read that, I thought, oh my God, I think that's worse than principles of agreement. I mean, I just think guiding
No,
principles.
I agree.
I would
I
suggest
think
that
it's six
change.
of one, half a dozen of
Okay,
another.
that's
I don't
fine.
Yeah.
The guiding principles is kind of redundant, but that's okay.
Okay.
So he's marked up the title, so what would you change the marked up title back to?
Guiding principles.
Guiding principles for recycled water project.
Yeah.
Guiding
Striking
principles,
of agreement.
guiding
Yeah.
principles of agreement?
Guiding principles for recycled water project.
Striking.
Yeah.
Strike the whole thing.
That way we take out the word agreement, it's not a
Yes.
Right,
contract.
absolutely,
Yes.
that's what I'm saying, that's
Okay.
what
Guiding
everybody's
principles.
getting hung
Yeah.
up on.
All right.
Okay, so it looks like
And the-
that.
And the rest of the corrections in
Yeah.
here, I don't really have any issue with
In version 6,
in version 6.
does anybody else have any specific things?
Let's go without that, change the title.
What, okay, any other specific
Oh, yeah,
parts?
yeah, item 14, then obviously, we want to say, I think these guiding principles are.
Or
Get rid of the word agreement.
effective? Is that what you're saying?
If the last sentence, or the bottom of page 3 would say, these guiding principles are merely a
Okay.
statement of the
Yeah.
terms upon which the parties may be interested, blah,
Okay.
blah, blah.
Makes more
Okay.
sense that way.
Yeah.
Instead of
Okay.
agreement.
I'd like to comment on.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Scott, one more.
Sure.
The signature page, we need to say, have executed these guiding principles, get rid of agreement. And I'm looking for other places where it might
So
have
it's
said
a global
agreement.
search, Alan, of that term and change it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, Scott.
On item 3, design and construction, Chuck has made some markup here about the treatment standard. The wording that we had, I believe, had more to do with OCP's requirements than with CCWD or MWSD's requirements, although those should be passed through from their customers. Like if Montero wanted to sell to one of the farms and the farm was doing orchids, they might have a higher standard than, right? So I think the original wording there was about what we already know about OCP's needs for certain water quality. I think at this level, it's probably fine to go either way with Chuck's wording or the original wording, but count on OCP and therefore CCWD coming back and wanting to get fairly specific about this. And I think if we're gonna anticipate what might cause a speed bump, this one might. And I would suggest we find a way to make it clear that we're anticipating that there's gonna be some minimum standard, and if Bruce knows he has to add a lot of gypsum to the water, you know, his willingness to fund things has to drop by the amount that it's gonna cost him to add the gypsum.
I would figure that it's more efficient cost-wise to do it here than it is.
Not necessarily, but it's something that we have to understand, like, you know, like at the Daly City plant, they add gypsum at the plant.
Right.
But they go to multiple golf courses,
And they custom tailor the water to each of the three. Those three golf courses are not getting identical water.
Okay, so there, it makes a lot of sense because they go to multiple. Here, it puts something on the table that we might wanna simplify, but
Actually,
I just wanna
no.
identify it as a potential area. If we call it out as something that we know we'll need to work on, maybe that's okay. Maybe we can just go ahead with it, or we can try to anticipate it the way we had it. I don't wanna get into a tussle with Chuck over it, and I see what he's trying to do, which is basically, look, there's a standard.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he could have cited Title 22, which is pretty low
Well,
standard.
I-
I'd like to see how high we can get the standard, so.
Other than, you know, the concerns that I already brought up, on most of this, I'm basically gonna defer to the three committee members on your recommendations.
So what is the pleasure of the board for?
Just one real quick one,
three,
Jim, real quick.
For paragraph 3.
In item, paragraph 3, where it says in the second sentence, the facilities will be designed to, and then get rid of the words designed to, again.
Oops.
Just say designed to treat the recycled water.
Okay.
That's one I caught. I'm sorry, Jim, go
No,
ahead.
do you want Chuck's version, or you want the original version in 5? For that,
I
for that
think
3?
I'd rather have a discussion with Chuck and go with the original wording.
Okay, all right.
Although I'll say on the second paragraph, I think his change there is right. Construction and operation, yes, somebody has to claim operation for the water agency facilities, it should be the water agencies, that one's pretty simple.
Which paragraph 3?
In paragraph,
yeah,
in section
yeah.
3, second paragraph,
Yeah.
I think that change is absolute, you know,
Yeah.
it's right on.
Okay.
The changes above, I would reject those changes, and then let's have a discussion with Chuck.
Anybody okay with that?
That's fine.
So we'll go ahead and, on paragraph 3, keep our, item 5, version 5.
Mhm.
For the first paragraph, the small second paragraph, we'll use Chuck's changes.
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else, anything else?
I would make a motion that we accept version 6 with the changes we just discussed. Do we need that more specific?
Version 6 or 5, I thought.
We're using version 6, but we're putting in the language of version 5 in the beginning of item 3. Right?
So, well,
Yes.
it's
First
version
paragraph.
6 with changes just discussed here.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
version 6 with paragraph 3, first part of first paragraph 3 from 5. Is that-
Yeah.
okay.
Would you like to amend that to, and the distribution part too? Not just approving it, but approving it for distribution to the agencies?
Yeah,
for signature.
yeah.
We have to send this out to all the
Yeah.
agencies.
Yes.
So I would
Distribution.
put that in the motion also.
So amended.
You know, for all that stuff.
Yeah, and then the agencies will have a chance to read this, make comments, and then the board will meet to look at those comments and at that point, come up with a final version.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Question to, Rick, so when you say agencies, you're talking about everybody that's going to sign this agreement, right? So it would go to
Or-
SAM, CCW, MSD, City of Half Moon Bay, and Granada.
It's
Right.
5
Right.
agencies.
And by setting this up with CCWD, we acknowledge OCP is the downstream person, but we may not need a direct contract with OCP, right?
Yeah.
Wait, could you repeat that? It goes to the 3 agencies, correct?
The
It
5
goes
agencies.
to everybody that's on the signature sheet.
Okay, let's see.
Counting SAM, it's 5 agencies on that
Yeah.
side
Yeah,
sheet.
so that's good. It goes to everybody involved, so nobody's
Okay.
left out.
Okay,
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
all right.
So do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I just wanna say one thing.
Yes.
I wanna congratulate the 3 of you for getting this far. Truly hope it goes forward and moves forward, because I think we absolutely need recycled water with the drought and everything going on. It's imperative that we get it.
Well, if the motion on the table passes, we are officially further along than we were 4 years ago.
And this is the furthest we've gotten. Okay, so, should we have a roll call vote?
This is important. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
This is momentous.
Boring.
Director Patrick?
Yes.
Director Alafano?
Yes.
Chair Harvey?
Aye.
Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Warren?
Aye.
Director Loman?
Well, let's break out the champagne.
All right, so going
I
on
wanna see
to,
the original seal on it, and sitting here with the spirit bomb, I'm
Yes.
suspicious.
going on to,
I'll provide the champagne.
going to new business, item E, adopt SAM resolution in support of Proposition 1 Water Quality Supply Infrastructure Improvement Act of 2014.
For clarification, what the directors are, I'm sure are aware of is that Proposition 1, the Water Quality Supply Infrastructure Improvement Act of 2014 is going to be on the upcoming ballot. That is a proposition spearheaded by Governor Brown that will fund $7.545 billion in general obligation bond for water infrastructure projects. And among those is $725 million for water recycling. And so one of the things that is being advocated by the Association of California Water Agencies and many other municipalities is support of this for these various projects that we all have significant vested interest in. Towards that end, boards of directors can take a position in support of something so long as public funds are not expended in support of a ballot measure. And so there is the text of the resolution would put SAM on the map as supporting this ballot measure upcoming this November 4th.
Okay, board members, Leonard?
Fishermen and some environmental groups have taken a position of opposed to this, and I do not think that this board should support it. There's at least one provision in it that I'm violently opposed to, which is dams. Dams have always been an environmental disaster. California has actually been making progress. It's probably a 100-year work plan, but California's been making progress on getting rid of dams on rivers. And unless the thing is rewritten to completely ban new dams on rivers, I can't support it. And I'm requesting that we do not support this measure. Also, the wording says it's neutral on the Bay Conservation Plan, which is just a euphemism for the peripheral canal to steal water from here to send it to Southern California. So there's multiple reasons that I'm opposed to this. The language did not explicitly say that money can't be used for the peripheral canal. It says it's neutral. That's not good enough. So I'm opposed to this. And normally I vote for anything that addresses clean water. This will be the first in my voting history since I was 18 of not voting for something for clean water because it's got too many other problems.
I have concerns about Proposition 1 too, but as Rob pointed out, it's, Proposition 1 would be helpful to this district in recycling water. So logically, I think it'd be appropriate that SAM as a board support passage of Proposition 1. Any other comments?
Prop 1 is a Christmas tree.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Alan?
No, through the chair, I share some of the concerns, and what we've discovered over time is no bills, no actions are ever perfect. But I do think, based on the issues we're running into, especially with drought, we don't know how many years this is gonna go, we really need to have some serious investments in some of these areas, and for us, helping us, if possibly with the recycled water project, will be a big step in that direction. So even though it may not be a perfect solution, I do think it's a step in the right direction. I'd be willing to support it.
Any other board members? Rick?
In the emails today, I got another huge email with some major arguments, mostly against it, which I haven't had time to read at this point. My concern, and having gone to the LAFCO conference recently and seeing a lot of green grass down there in Southern California, and everybody on the bus is commenting on it. I'm extremely concerned about them taking more water. I don't know the language of the bill enough to know, what protections we have against them taking more water than they already are. I think I've seen arguments about a large reservoir being built up here to collect water. then all of that being shipped down to Southern California. I don't know whether I would vote no or abstain on this, but I'm not happy with the line. To some extent, I don't know enough, in which case I would probably abstain. But
Okay,
I have enough concern that I
Okay.
think this is another one of those bills. There's great stuff, recycle water, wonderful conservation, wonderful building storage, wonderful. But I'm really concerned about the trend of taking our water and shipping it down to folks who don't care as much as we do about it. So.
Okay, Naomi, do you have any comments to make about?
Well, I share what everybody said, but I also know that it would benefit this district with the recycling stuff. So I'm not really, I probably would abstain along with Rick. You know, I don't sit on this board, so.
Okay.
I just think that there's positives out of it, but there's also negatives. But that's the way it is every time you have a
Yeah.
proposition.
Yeah.
I mean, there's never a foolproof proposition. It'll get changed by the time it comes to fruition, if it ever does.
Okay.
Well, the interesting thing was, I think it got full support from pretty much both sides of the aisle, which is very unusual.
Well, I'd like to know what the vote count
It's,
was.
Scott?
I think I'd agree with Leonard, it's a bit of a Christmas tree. It's all been said, this one, I think if this is an artful dodge around the opposition to the peripheral canal, I mean, that's my major concern. It looks like this is the most artful of the dodges, but it hasn't closed it hadn't closed the door on it. It looks like it left it wide open in the back, and I'm pretty concerned about it. I don't sense that we've got a whole strong consensus here. I think we do have consensus that it, you know, has the potential to be good for our recycled water efforts, although I'll remind us all that when it comes to the allocation of funding, the little guys always come up short, and we are almost
We're
the
a little
littlest
guy.
of the littlest, right?
We're a little bit mean.
We are a little bit mean, but, you know, Montera is smaller yet, and
Even meaner.
we've gotten some. I knew I didn't have to say it.
I'm sorry.
It's true, we're,
You couldn't help it.
I think we like to call it tenacious, fiercely
That too.
independent,
You want more words?
but,
I go
Yeah.
to Wikipedia.
I'll just let everyone can fill in. All right, now that you filled in your thoughts. And we've managed to get some grant funding, but we've had to work very hard for it, and, I don't know, we'd be up against the East Bay Muds and, LA County, and, I just don't know if with this kind of, feelings on both sides, that it really makes one hill of beans difference one way or the other, whether we endorse it or not. I'd like to think that it would, and, you know, I would be tempted to support it just because of that, but I'm really concerned about that peripheral canal, because frankly, if they pull that off, the state water problems are gonna be bigger than ever. And, you know, living in Northern California, I've seen the green in Southern California, and it's,
You know, it's a difficult thing, because when
It
you're
is very
wearing your
difficult.
SAM hat,
Right.
when you're wearing your SAM hat,
Mhm.
you know, it'd be helpful for SAM for this to pass. But we all have other hats too.
Right.
So it's like the feeling of the board would not support, so we don't even have, I don't think, we shouldn't even
No,
take a
we're
vote.
just-
So let's
Yeah.
just pass on the issue and not even have
You
a vote.
know that one out of every 3 people in the state of California lives in LA County?
That's why it's gonna pass. In any
Absolutely.
case,
You know?
so we won't take a position, the board won't take a position then.
We could table till our November meeting.
Okay.
speaking of artful dodges.
Right. I think that if it does passes, it'll be a benefit to Sam, and I think that,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
no, we have to, I don't think that we don't want to be negative in any way, so we'll just not, we'll just.
Somebody I know in El Granada who has a house in Newport and is moving there is really upset with certain things here, saying there's no rationing or anything in Southern California. They're not being asked to cut back on.
Currently, they will be.
If if you walk down the streets of Pasadena at night, you have to step over the water coming down the gutters.
Wow.
The gutters are completely filled with water when they water the lawn at nights.
All right,
It's
so you're
pretty
making
amazing.
my point.
It's pretty
I'm
amazing.
thinking an airstrike.
Airstrike.
We're not gonna put up with this.
Just not satisfied with Montero having the reputation of being meaner, huh?
Boy, Ellen's on
It's
a
rubbing
roll
off.
tonight.
All right, so, general manager's report, anything you want to make publicly,
Just open the report up to any questions you might have.
okay? Let's go ahead and turn to that page.
I have a question on something that's probably not on the report.
We're talking about, general manager's report? Okay, go ahead, Leonard.
Well, let me look at this real quick. I sort of ran into the building in a hurry, so I didn't check. Do we have new lettering on the building?
We've made contact with the manufacturers. They're actually cast brass letters, so we're working with them to get some.
So you're gonna be able to pick up one word and move it over and take out the middle word and put in two new words.
That's the goal.
Just use that insert mode.
It's part of that recycle.
Reuse first.
Okay, any other, want to look at this report, and any comments or questions? It's like the general manager has been busy.
Yep.
I don't understand this. Why do we have this 2008? Oh, just for the one highlighted thing. I'm looking at the wrong thing here.
All right, if there's no other comments or questions, thank you, Rob, for that report, that great report. Let's go on to attorney's report, Jim.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, thank you, Jim. And then,
Okay.
any director's reports? Rick
Just to
Wilman.
keep the meeting going a little longer.
I
I would-
debated that too, Rick, but
I didn't write up the report, I would just sort of submit it here. Last week, I went down to my first LAFCO meeting, Cal LAFCO, which was interesting. There was some fascinating discussions, strangely enough, a lot of them were around the water basins. But I think it was very worthwhile because there was just a lot of discussions about all these problems that the water basins are getting into and why, and overdrafting, and some very interesting areas in Orange County, which we might think would be the worst of the worst, but turns out to have some very well thought out proportioning type rules they've set up for. There could be in a basin, 3 water districts and 17 cities and 17 other major users, potential for major disaster. But they've worked out agreements where there are all these incentives in the plan to keep under your percents and things like that. And they actually seem to be working, which is very interesting, where other people are just draining it to nothing.
Is that a groundwater management plan?
Bingo.
What a concept.
Wow.
And to see it actually working and have
Wow.
the big agencies get up there and talk about it, it's kind of interesting that
Wow.
there are ways to solve this problem. Especially, there are all these different kinds of districts named all these different things, but these ones that have multiple agencies and single basins are the recipe for disaster, but in a lot of places it is a disaster because everybody's just sucking the water out as fast as they can, but other places are actually working this, and
So there's hope for us.
there's hope. We just have to build a wall that keeps all the water up here, and there's no problem. So
Okay,
that's
anybody else?
all the report.
Anybody else? All right, any public comment? Oral communication? If not, we'll adjourn the meeting at 8:36.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Can we adjourn the meeting in the, for the